Hello, St. Dunstan's. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, and in the life of the Church, it is the Feast of the Annunciation, the day in which Christians commemorate and give thanks for the incomparable good news given to a young unmarried woman in Nazareth 2,000 years ago. News that she would conceive and bear a child and name him Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. So today we celebrate and give thanks for Mary and her willingness to say, "Yes, let it be to me according to your word." We also celebrate and give thanks that at a particular moment in time, God chose to enter into human experience, into human history, literally inseminating creation with God's very self. It strikes me that for us in our day, the Annunciation is incomparable good news. But we can only say that with the clarity of hindsight, knowing the rest of the story. For Mary, in the moment, this announcement has to have been anything but good news. And we can imagine the fear and the confusion and the shame she experienced on hearing it. It also has to be said that the world into which Jesus was about to be born didn't exactly stop and celebrate the miracle unfolding in its midst. On the contrary, people were struggling just to get by, living under foreign oppression, foreign occupation. And so a young pregnant girl from a backwater town like Nazareth was not at all newsworthy. We know now that God was very much at work in the world of first century Palestine. But with the notable exception of Mary and Joseph, most folks just carried on, going about their daily business, and the activity of God went more or less unremarked. This seems to be the way it is with God, that we do not, or perhaps cannot, recognize what God is up to in the present moment. It's often only in retrospect that we're able to look back and realize that God really has been active in our lives all along, even if only stealthily. When I first started to experience my sense of call to the priesthood, as part of my discernment process, I had to write my spiritual journey, the story of my life, all 25 years of it up until that point. And I had to tell the story with a specific eye toward identifying moments where I had felt God calling or nudging or perhaps kicking me toward my eventual vocation. How had God been at work in my life? I highly recommend this exercise, and if you have time, I encourage you to spend some time going back and reflecting on your own journey up until this point, and ask yourself where you've seen evidence of God at work in your life. But I also have to say that even though I was able to identify some God moments in retrospect, as those moments were unfolding, if you had asked me at any one of those points whether I sensed that God was calling me to the ordained ministry, I would have probably laughed in your face. I couldn't see it at the time. There was no way that I could perceive it. Hindsight really is 2020. For all of the fear and the confusion and the hardship and the disruption that we are experiencing right now, I have a very strong sense that God may be at work to do something new in the midst of this pandemic. I obviously don't know what that something new is, but I also know that I'm not alone in perceiving that something is shifting. I hear it all the time in my conversations with you all and with clergy colleagues. Something is up. The ground is shifting. Please don't misunderstand me. I do not for a moment think that God has willed or caused this novel virus that is plaguing the world. But I do think that God is moving in the midst of it right now. I felt it earlier today as Christians all over the world stopped whatever they were doing at noon our time and paused to pray together earnestly and fervently. My family and I gathered around my laptop with the presiding bishop online, and as we joined him in praying the words that Jesus taught, Our Father who art in heaven, I burst into tears, and I couldn't even speak for a moment. I was so moved by the powerful sense of connection of so many Christians worldwide, millions perhaps, lifting our hearts and minds and souls for one common purpose, united as one, if only for a moment. I really felt that God was doing something in that experience. We don't yet know the end of the story in which we find ourselves these days, and I suspect that it will probably be a long time before any of us truly comprehends the magnitude of what we're going through. But in the midst of so much that we do not and cannot understand, I believe that God is even now at work in and with and through and for us, even though we can't see it, we can't feel it perhaps. God is moving, and for that I give tremendous thanks. I wish you all a blessed Feast of the Annunciation. I wish you a peaceful night, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. God bless.